Back in April of 1985, a sudden and really violent shift happened in the Lebanese Civil War. Over just a few chaotic days, a whole string of Christian towns east of the city of Sidon were completely overrun. So today, we're going to dive into a news report from that exact moment to understand how it all went down and why it was such a big deal. Everything really kicks off at these four pretty chilling words, reportedly spoken by Palestinian prisoners right as these events were unfolding. Now it is our turn. And let me tell you, that's not just a quote, that's a declaration. It tells you right away that what we're about to see isn't just another battle, it's an act of payback.
All right, so what did this turn actually look like on the ground? Let's start with the immediate aftermath, because the human cost of this takeover was absolutely staggering.
So what went down was this incredibly fast, coordinated push. Palestinian fighters, fighting right alongside their Muslim militia allies, just rolled into a whole string of Christian villages. We're not talking about a long, drawn-out siege here. This was a lightning-fast collapse of the entire front line. And if there's one number that really hits home the sheer scale of this human catastrophe, it's this one. 60,000. You have to understand, these weren't just a few individuals caught in the crossfire. This was the forced displacement of entire communities who had to flee with whatever they could carry as their towns were being taken.
But how could something like this happen so quickly? Well, to get that, you really have to untangle this incredibly complex web of armed groups that were involved. The Lebanese Civil War was, notoriously complicated, and this moment was just a perfect storm of shifting alliances.
Okay, so this table really lays it all out for us. On the attacking side, you've got the Palestinian guerrillas, and they're allied with both Sunni and Shiite Muslim militias, groups like the People's Liberation Army and the Amal movement. But now, look at the other side. The Christian Lebanese Forces militia had just left the area. They withdrew. And maybe the most telling part, the official Lebanese army, they were right there, on the scene. But according to the report, they just watched. They didn't intervene at all. It paints this fascinating and pretty tragic picture of a national army just standing by as all these militias tear the country apart. So here's the real kicker. This wasn't some big invasion against the dug-in, fortified enemy. Nope, this was an advance into a power vacuum. Let's break down exactly how that vacuum got created in the first place.
And you can see the whole chain reaction laid out right here. It's like dominoes falling. First, boom, the Israeli army pulls back. That leaves the local Christian militia totally exposed, so their 400 fighters, they quickly pull out too. And that sudden void, that complete lack of power, basically acts like a green light for the Palestinian and Muslim forces to just move right in and take control. It's a textbook example of how one strategic withdrawal can completely reshape a battlefield, literally overnight.
So the takeover is complete. What happens next? Well, the reports paint a picture of total chaos, a mix of systematic looting on one hand and some very high-stakes military threats on the other. According to witnesses, this wasn't just some random smash and grab. No, this was organized. I mean, think about it. Everyday household items, bedroom furniture, refrigerators, TVs, all of it was being loaded onto cars and trucks and, reportedly, taken straight to nearby Palestine refugee camps. This was a massive transfer of property, of wealth, from one community to another. And it wasn't just about the stuff they were taking. There were these hugely symbolic acts going on too. Destroying the statue of Major Saad Haddad, who was the founder of that Israeli-backed Christian militia, that wasn't just random vandalism. It was sending a really clear, potent message. The old authority is gone, and we are literally wiping its symbols off the map. Now, how did the Christian side respond? With a massive escalation. Antoine Lade, who is Haddad's successor, put out this chilling, direct threat. If the advance continued towards the town of Jezzin, he would order his men to bombard the entire city of Sidon with artillery. All of a sudden, this conflict was about to shift from a militia takeover to a full-blown urban war. And you can imagine, this put the Christian leaders of Jezzin, which was the main town where all the refugees had fled, in a totally impossible bind. On one hand, they were desperate to negotiate some kind of peace deal to save their city and its 20,000 people. But on the other hand, they're hosting General Lade and his troops, the very guy threatening to start an all-out war. His presence made them a target and completely undermined any chance they had for peace. But look, it's so important to remember that none of this just happened out of the blue. To really get the feeling behind that quote we started with, "Now it is our turn," you have to look at the absolutely brutal month of fighting that came right before this moment.
The news report makes it really clear, for a whole month leading up to this, huge battles had been raging, and from these exact same Christian villages, the Lebanese Forces militia had been heavily shelling Muslim parts of Sidon and the Palestinian refugee camps nearby.
And just look at this chart. It shows you exactly what that cost was for the other side. According to the report, that shelling left 110 people killed, 400 wounded, and an incredible 50,000 people homeless. So when you see these numbers, the takeover of the Christian villages, while obviously a total disaster for the people living there, was framed by the attackers as direct retaliation for the devastation they had just been through. And this is why this whole event is so significant, historically speaking. This moment marked the big reemergence of Palestinian fighters as a major military force in Lebanon. It had been 3 years since the PLO was driven out by the Israeli invasion in 1982. This signaled the start of a new and deeply violent chapter in the war.
And that really leaves us with this one very difficult question, doesn't it? The report details a clear military victory for one side. But when that victory means taking over the homes of 60,000 people who've been forced to flee, you're just planting the seeds for the next round of violence. It really makes you wonder, in a conflict that's just defined by displacement and revenge, what could peace possibly even look like?